I never thought that I would be in the family business, but I also never thought our family business would become the Dallas Cowboys.
So what was that like, finding your footing while you're also a new mother?
I literally, would drag my baby to work, and I was commuting from Arkansas to Dallas, and I would drop my daughter off with my mom and head out in the morning to work with my dad.
When you saw America's Sweethearts for the first time, what was your reaction to it?
Because I saw it when everybody else saw it. In a world that they live in that is so glamorous and seems like it's so perfect, to be so raw, I just appreciated the raw vulnerability.
What do you think of Taylor Swift's effect on football?
This is amazing. She brings this incredible culture with her and all of this unbelievable younger generation that just can't wait. I'm not sure if they figured out what football is yet, but they want to watch, and now they're interested. We have always, with the Cowboys, always felt strongly that politics should never enter our game. If we did so, we would divide half of this stadium.
Have you ever had someone spread their ashes here?
Yes, we have. Right out there on that star. And I did not know what they were doing until we walked up and realized what they were doing, and I was afraid we were stepping on Uncle Joe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Katie Miller Podcast. We're so glad to be here in Dallas, Texas today, joined by Charlotte Jones.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that you are in our house. Welcome to AT&T Stadium.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
So would you mind telling our viewers a little bit about yourself? I always like to say in 30 seconds, but I'm sure your story, which we will go in today, is a lot longer than 30 seconds.
Yes. Okay, so you want the 30-second version, like right now?
Who you are, what are you doing?
Okay, well, first of all, welcome to Dallas, welcome to Arlington, welcome to AT&T Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys, and I am a co-owner and chief brand officer of the Dallas Cowboys. My journey began over 30 years ago here, and as we have evolved as an organization, I've taken on many different roles in many different hats, but the proudest of which is to sit here and call this place home and to be a part of such an incredible organization and a wonderful family.
Did you know you always wanted to join the Cowboys?
No, I never wanted to join the Cowboys. That was never my destination. I think right out of school, I actually went to college, went to Stanford to be pre-med. I really thought that I was gonna be in medical school, gonna be helping people in a way that was literally saving lives. I always had a desire to want to help people in whatever my vocation became. I quickly got slapped into shape when I went to Stanford and realized, okay, this is really not the path that I am destined to take. And right out of school, I went to Washington, D.C. to work for a congressman from Arkansas. I thought for some crazy reason that Washington is where I could go change the world. Quickly realized there that too was not my destination. But while I was there, a funny thing happened, and my father decided to buy the Dallas Cowboys. And that journey was an incredible pivot point for me. And the rest was pretty much a game changer in terms of where I saw myself, what I saw myself doing, and how I was going to become part of something that I never dreamed of being a part of. Our family business was the oil and gas business. So I literally grew up around a kitchen table where my dad said, okay, your glass of milk right here is an oil field. And if you take your straw and try to get it over into that glass, then maybe you can draw some of that out, and then that will provide your house and your family with whatever you want to. And so, we played glasses of milk, circular rotation around our table. And I never thought that I would be in the family business, but I also never thought our family business would become the Dallas Cowboys.
A lot of, I would say, children of high net worth individuals choose not to follow their family into business. Yeah. Do you think it's that your father's example, or is it something in you? Because we see today a lot that a lot of these high net worth individuals are not leaving their inheritance to their children. They're choosing to donate it to charity. Their children are likewise choosing not to join them. Yeah. What's that choice like for you?
I think for us as a family, with my father being a bit of an entrepreneur and meddling in a little bit of everything of, okay, how can I make something happen? He was quite a wildcatter and a risk taker early on. But I knew for myself personally, I didn't want to do that. When all of us got kind of drug into the family business. I mean, my older brother was actually a chemical engineer by trade, so he was definitely going that direction. For me personally, I got involved because everything was chaotic and we needed help and everything was a disaster, and my dad had put everything on the line and risked everything, and we literally had nothing left. And it was like, okay, either get involved and help solve the problem, or or sit and watch it burn from afar. And I think for us as a family, to be able to step in at a time when things were really controversial, really challenging, really difficult, I don't know that any of us knew where it was going and what it would become. And at that time, it was just a moment of survival. And that was when, your true family shows up. Of, you got to be there for each other, and how do you find a way to make it work? So the business of sport became, I was very fortunate that it wasn't a business that my father was ever in, so we didn't ever do anything the way it had always been done. So we were all learning together. So it became a very different dynamic than I'm going into the family business. So in that, I think each of us were able to find our own sense of purpose and our own talent of what we could contribute to make it grow together to be exciting, like all of what we hear in the background on the field.
You joined the Cowboys in the late 80s?
Yes.
And then you had your children shortly thereafter?
Yes.
So what was that like, finding your footing while you're also a new mother?
I don't know if I found my footing yet. I don't actually know what that means. I mean, for me, I had not been married yet, and of course hadn't started my family yet, and was heavily involved in my job and all the chaos that surrounded it. And along the way, here came the marriage and here came the kids, and I literally, would drag my baby to work, and I was commuting from Arkansas to Dallas, and I think I'm the only person that had like a reserve seat on Southwest Airlines, because here I came with the baby carrier. That was long before everything like popped up and ran by itself, and you just like watched it stroll. So it was like all the lugging of everyone, and I would drop my daughter off with my mom and head out in the morning to work with my dad. And I stayed with my parents when I came to Dallas, and then I would go home to my husband back in Arkansas and make that commute. And it was kind of one of those things of, you didn't have time to stop and go, wait, how do I make this work? You just kind of figured it out along the way. And I was fortunate that it was a family business, so I could put a little playpen in my office, and my daughter grew up, really being a part of the whole work environment. And we figured out how to make it happen.
Would you say that as your family grew, that dynamic changed and your kids consistently came with you? At what point did you move to Dallas?
Yeah. Well, shortly thereafter, I think when you live with your parents, and we literally lived, I think most people would find this pretty fascinating, is that we lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Myself, my baby, and my parents. A one-bedroom apartment. We turned the studio study into my bedroom and a nursery, and then the big living room was my mother's closet, and then the coffee table became the dining room, and we'd just like put a towel over the coffee table for where we ate dinner. And at night, the baby would cry, Haley would cry, and I would get up to feed her, and I had no door. There was no door on this room. And my dad would hear her crying, and he would come in the middle of the night, and he would sit on my bed and say, well, can I help you? And I'm kind of, sitting there all hooked up like, no, you cannot help me. And he said, well, then I'll just keep you company. And he would sit there as I would feed her and just talk and tell stories, and then go back to bed. I'd put her back to bed, and in the morning we'd wake up. And my dad said at that point, he said, every father should be a grandfather before they're a father, so they can appreciate how hard it is for a young mother to raise a child and to go to work. And that was really, that kind of recognition drew us into supporting the Salvation Army and a child care that we put our name on and financially supported, because he had such a heart for mothers that were working, that were single, like how do you make this happen, that we have to do something to help.
You're one of the most influential women in sports, partly because of what you just mentioned, your journey with the Salvation Army and doing incredible charity with them. What do you think, as you went through marriage, divorce, remarriage, how do you think you encourage other young athletes, whether that be cheerleaders or different sports, to kind of continue on and, put their best foot forward every day, whether that be in their sport or whether that be through motherhood?
Yeah. That's a complex question right there, because there's so much to unpack in that, and I think I'm such a fan of young, driven girls, and I felt like I was one, and always a seeker, always looking to do something, or looking to have purpose and striving to be better, and with that comes all the work you've got to put in, and all the work that you do when no one's watching, and that effort of like, I just want to be, what I do be important, and I want my life to be important, and I want to contribute in a big way, and how do I figure out how to do that? And I felt like as a young girl, I was super supported by my parents. I think I got my passion from my father, and I got my compassion from my mother. And hopefully, on both sides of that, it was, okay, how do you turn your perseverance into purpose? And how do you put all of that together so that what you do is rewarding, not just for you, but it becomes rewarding and intentional for others? And, life is interesting. I have found that, some of my greatest successes have come from my biggest challenges, and that has been growing up. It has been in my school. It has been in my workplace. It has been in my personal space. Of anytime that I'm faced with, and I've had many, anytime I'm faced with life challenges of like, oh gosh, how much more can you hold? Then you dig deep and you find out how strong you truly are, and I think that's your source. That's your source of energy. That's your source of strength, and that defines your purpose.
Why do you think it is that more viewers aren't watching sports like the WNBA or other women's sports out there?
I think we've seen here recently, and I we all go back to Caitlin Clark. I mean, she was such an attraction for everyone to want to root for, watch, endorse, cheer for, be a part of that excellence. And it's like being noticed for your greatness. And I think that women's sports has always had a battle. It's like, do the eyeballs come first and the interest come first, or does the visibility create the ability to draw the eyeballs and the interest? And in the world of sports, you're paid for your eyeballs you bring to the table. And in women's sports, if you don't have it yet, then you don't get the big platform. So should the platform give it to you to see if they're actually there? And I think that's actually what we're seeing right now is here comes, women's sports with the gas pedal down, and people are responding to that. And, we've seen it in tennis, we're seeing it in basketball, and I think that will continue to grow because, people want to cheer for people that are working hard and also are great. And I think that draws natural viewership.
Do you think that the male sports should subsidize the female sports in order for them to succeed?
I think that was a really great model in college because you just didn't have the opportunity. Young women, young girls wanting to play sports at a collegiate level, if that didn't happen, there was no opportunity for them. I think when you get to professional sports and it becomes a business, that's a whole different model. But when you're looking for and trying to give opportunity at a younger age, I'm a big proponent of that because otherwise, how do they get the opportunity if you don't help them out?
As the chief brand officer for the Cowboys, how do you always look for the next pop culture moment, and how do you continue to evolve as the Cowboys have done with what's coming next as a team that's often on the forefront of big change in the NFL?
It's been really important for us and for me through my professional journey of identifying what is truly important for us to build our brand. And we really have 5 key pillars with that. The first is tradition, that it's really important for us to recognize where we came. And when we stepped in to get involved in the Dallas Cowboys, it was not because they were winning. I mean, they were losing $75,000 a day, over $1 million a month. We were 3-13. That team hadn't won anything in a decade, and that's not what you wanted to be involved in. You wanted to be involved in the tradition of what built it. So to recognize that and keep that grounded and rooted there, but you also don't want to just stay there, because then you just become generational and nostalgic. So the innovation is super important. And we found innovation both on a business front, but also just with people and their avidity to the sport of what are they interested in? Of course, they're interested in the game, but then how do we tie that into other aspects of what they do? So we've tried to reach, whether that has been into music, into things that they're passionate about, into community, into charity, into art, into design, into architecture, in every facet of that. It's like, let's try to dabble in this space, because while we're building something amazing, maybe we'll bring fans of architecture and technology to our game, and then they'll become a fan of our game. So in that, it kind of opens up the book of possibilities of where is that interest, and how do we reach those people?
What's been the proudest moment you've had in your role that fans may not realize that you had a hand in?
Oh my goodness. That's a tough one. I think because as an organization, I think we're most proud of the trophies that we have at the end of the day. I mean, that's what we suit up for, is to go get that Lombardi trophy. So that is actually significant. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen for you every year. So where are those other successes that mean a lot? I frankly think we're sitting in one of them. AT&T Stadium is certainly a marquee venue, but it means more than that. It's like, how do we bring people to what we're doing and create the excitement and energy around it and invite everyone here? So, you know, we're sitting in a perch, and there's luxury suites, but there's also standing room tickets, so anybody can come. And I think that's important. It's to invite every audience to be a part of what you are, and then take them on a great ride.
When the team is doing well versus when they aren't doing so well, how does that affect, I know it affects fans' morale, right? But how does it affect you as the owner of the team?
You know, I think the hardest part about not having success on the field is the immense feeling of disappointment, and that you've let everyone down. And I think as much, for me personally, as much as we get wrapped into every play, and you want to win like every other fan, that you want to win, and you're sick at your stomach when you don't. But then it's the realization that you've let everybody here that is attended, that is probably risked their last dollar to be a part of what we are, and we let them down. And the people that are watching, and we let them down. And that doesn't feel good. And so every morning you wake up, if you got to sleep the night before, of shoot, how do we figure out how to make this better? And what can we do to make sure that we're showing that we're doing everything that we can, but that we have true success? And that's that's something that, yeah, I mean, we carry. It's a heavy burden, and you carry it, but it's intense, but you love that intensity, because that's why people are fans. So I think that's the hardest part.
The Cowboys are America's team. I find that across our country, when you talk to people and you say, who are you rooting for? A lot of people you don't expect say the Cowboys, and you say, why? It's just like, that's who my parents or my dad, cheered for as a child. But what the Cowboys are also known for is this being ahead of the curve and really leaning into these cultural moments that are flashpoints in American society as America's team. Mm-hmm. I think back to when Prince Bundar Sultan brought Nelson Mandela to the stadium.
Oh my gosh. What a moment. And to have him here, that was actually Texas Stadium, the old stadium that he came to. And I don't think we've ever had a moment more significant in time, to have someone like that who had never been to an NFL game, and for everyone in the crowd, for that moment to say, yeah, you come to a game to cheer and to be a part of something special, but that was like, oh my gosh, this this is bringing the world together. I mean, he represented everything that was good about life. It was about fighting for each other. It was about having a unified community, and for him to step foot in our building and for the response that everyone, it didn't matter age or gender or where they were from, everyone was just in awe.
How do you see the Cowboys and sports as this unifying force behind politics and culture, not only in America, but across the globe?
Well, I think that's, to me, the most rewarding part of what we get to do. Because I certainly have, some people may call it a bit naive, but my whole perspective of what we do and our sport and our game is truly to bring people together. And when you think about it, on a Sunday afternoon, you have someone out here that just came from church and they're in their suit and tie, and then you have a guy that pulled up on his Harley that's coming out in his tattoos, and they're high-fiving, drinking beer or toasting with Pepsi, whatever they're doing.
Have you ever done a keg stand?
Oh, it's like, have I? That's my response.
It's perfectly well timed.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. That is awesome. But I love the fact that it is, it's generational. It is geographically, inclusive. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your politics are. But everybody in that moment can choose to cheer for their team and against the other in a friendly fight. And I think it's so great because it's the ultimate unifier. And I think, and then afterwards, then you can all, find your way of accepting the fact that everybody needs an opponent. And what did we come here for? And I think it's just it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's what makes our society so great. And we can't forget that.
What do you think of Taylor Swift's effect on football?
This is amazing. I mean, how great is that? I mean, already in the NFL, prior to the Taylor Swift effect, 47% of our fan base is female. So I think that's something that most people don't truly understand. 47% of the fans that watch on television, that attend the games, that buy the merchandise, buy the tickets, are women. And then now all of a sudden, we have this incredibly amazing pop female strong icon that throws herself into the game behind her man, all cheering, all excited, and she brings this incredible culture with her and all of this unbelievable younger generation that just can't wait. I'm not sure if they figured out what football is yet, but they want to watch and now they're interested. And that's the greatest part about our game.
Do you think it's hurt with legacy fans?
You know what? I don't think it's hurt with legacy fans. I think there's always room for more fans. And at the end of the day, the game is the game. It's not affecting the product on the field. If you would rather see a replay versus a flash of her in the stands, well, you know what? You can watch it also on your handheld and find another shot there.
What are your thoughts on Bad Bunny performing at this year's Super Bowl?
I think it's awesome. And I think our Latina fan base is amazing. And I think when you think about the Super Bowl, you want the number one performer in the world to be there. We're on a global stage, and we can't ever forget that. Our game goes out to everybody around the world. And to get the premier entertainer to want to be a part of our game, I think is amazing. And I think that we have a mixed culture. I mean, our whole society is based on immigrants that have come here and founded our country. And I think we can celebrate that. And I think the show's going to be amazing.
You don't think at a time when his comments were divisive as it relates to President Trump, when everyone is just seeking this political unification, that you'd want somebody who maybe didn't touch politics to be on that stage?
Yeah, I don't think our game's about politics. I don't think people tune in to look at politics. We do everything we can to avoid politics. And I think in that moment that people will be watching the game, they'll be celebrating music, and nobody will be thinking about what's comments on the left side, what comments on the right side, that this is about bringing people together.
Over the past few years, the NFL has taken steps to be more socially conscious. Do you think that's a place that football should be, or do you think it should just be, again, what you've just said, which is about the game and leaving politics at the door.
We have always, with the Cowboys, always felt strongly that politics should never enter our game. If we did so, we would divide half of this stadium. We are not in the 50-50. 51% doesn't win for us.
Yeah.
We want to have 99% that cheer for us. So we want everybody to support us and to support our game. So we don't think we have a place for politics.
As I've mentioned throughout this interview, the Cowboys are known as America's team in a time when our country is as divisive as it's ever been. What does America's team and that branding mean to the Cowboys organization?
I think it's super important for us. I mean, we've never called ourselves that, but we have certainly taken on that mantle and felt like we need to represent every voice that's here in this country. And to be able to present our game in a way that is inclusive, to do so in a way that entices a young fan and then celebrates the elderly that are here, that choose to be a part of why they come to see this sport. Our game is a respite. People come here to leave their problems at home. They don't want to come here and emphasize the things that they're trying to get away from. They want to come here and they want to celebrate. They want to meet people. They want to feel better about themselves. They want to see people working hard on the field, persevering, getting up after they've gotten knocked down. I mean, that's the genesis of what our game is all about, and that's the inspiration. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to inspire people. We're trying to motivate people, and we're trying to give them just a break from all of the problems that they have so they can come here and celebrate.
There's been a lot of viral Jumbotron moments that we've seen on the internet across stadiums. Do you remember your funniest viral Jumbotron moment you've seen here at AT&T Stadium?
I don't know if we should reveal all of that. I think it's great. And, you can't get away with anything on that screen.
No, it's very large. I was curious if you've ever seen a good kiss cam,
We've had lots of great kiss cams. We've had a lot of great proposals. I think that's always great. It's always amazing to me how many people want to get engaged here or want to get married here or want to memorialize a loved one here. It's really amazing. But it also, I think, speaks to how important that is. I think we've always felt that we're a part of people's culture and that we're more of like a lifestyle as opposed to a brand. Like this is our job, is to bring people together.
Have you ever had someone spread their ashes here?
Yes, we have. Yes, we actually have.
Where did they go?
Right out there on that star. And
really?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Does it get vacuumed
and
up?
I did not know what they were doing until we walked up and realized what they were doing, and I was afraid we were stepping on Uncle Joe, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do we do? It's like some of those things are not planned. You're not always aware of everything that is going on, and then all of a sudden, it happens. But we let them finish, and then, we handled it.
So when I was launching the Katie Miller podcast, when everyone had said, put together your list of who you want to interview, you ended up on my original list of people that I wanted for my podcast. And I shared with you briefly before we started, but I've been a fan of the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders making the team since it was on CMT in 2006.
I love it.
I am not coordinated. I could not do a jump split. I can't even dance. There is no bit of coordination to be found in my body. But yet, I think every year I could do a jump split, and sure enough, I could make the team. I could not indeed make the team. So, on that,
I love it.
And for all those watching out there, yes, Stephen Miller has also seen every episode of Cheerleaders Making the Team.
He needs to be a judge, maybe.
What made you decide that it was time to move on from CMT to Netflix when CMT was a much different show than what you see on Netflix?
Yeah, I think it's that basically is the change of media. At some point, and we had been, such great partners with CMT, and then they just couldn't do it again. And, I think that speaks to the landscape of media and where it's evolving, and now how most things are becoming, digital in the age of streaming. We needed to make a change, and they needed to make a change. So we had a great mutual departure from each other, and then we thought, I wonder if anybody else might be interested in this. And we led that process that found us at the door to Netflix. And, I'm not sure that they truly understood what this could be. And I have to be completely honest, I don't know that I really was counting on the incredible support that it would have, and that how it would just kind of blow up and become really a part of people's everyday culture and their vibe, and that they would get so involved and engaged in all of our cheerleaders. Now I will say this, the hope was certainly there, because from the beginning my hope for the show was that you would really see who these young women were and how hard they worked. And it kind of goes back to your prior question of, do people like women's sports? Do they like to see it? Well, when you see women work so hard and they're great at their craft and they are the best of their peers, and they're so passionate about what they're doing, and they know that this is my moment to do this, and then I've got to move on with my life into something else, that you want them to celebrate it. You want people to actually understand what it takes to be a part of that. So I was hopeful that if people heard their stories and saw their stories, that they would really gravitate to that. I would definitely say it's exceeded our expectations.
The CMT version felt very much like pageant meets boot camp, and while Netflix has definitely delved more into the humanity and emotion of the moment.
Yes.
Was that intentional, or was that just a change in production?
I think that was definitely a change in production. And, when we first met the director, Greg was he was super upfront and honest about, I want to tell the stories. I want the lives of these women. Like, we need to know what makes them tick so people can relate to their journey. And there was a lot of trust with him, because, we have zero control and edit control, which most people wouldn't do this. And I think it also kind of speaks to how we think about innovation. We do a lot of other things that people would never take a risk to do. This is one of them. And I think, trusting that director is really after who the people are versus just wanting to make a story is important. And I think he's been able to pull that out of these women and show their journeys. And I think that's why people gravitate to it, because it's so authentic.
When you saw America's Sweethearts for the first time, what was your reaction to it, not knowing how the product was going to turn out?
Yeah, and I think that's the other surprise, is I saw it when everybody else saw it. This is, oh my gosh. Well, there was so much, I learned so much about the women that were on the squad that I never knew. I think that was one thing, which was great. And then I just appreciated the raw vulnerability. I think it's in a world that they live in that is so glamorous and seems like it's so perfect, to be so raw and just that vulnerability. I think that's hard for us to step up and just really, be who we are to a camera and not know who's behind it and what judgment will come beyond that. And I think it's really pulled that out of a lot of these women and has become a very, very powerful story for them.
Over the years, I, like many Americans, have watched the audition process change for the cheerleaders.
In a good way.
In a good way. Can you talk about how it's evolved from having thousands of women at the doors to the stadium to the COVID era to now it's a much slimmer audition process thanks to social media?
Yes, all of it. And I think, here's the thing. Innovation and evolution is a really good thing. And I think that, times change, things change. Who they are changes, and certainly talent changes. And I know, and you can talk to many of them that cheered from the 70s to the 80s and the 90s and beyond, that they say they could never make it today. That they had a wonderful time while they were here, but the talent level has has increased so
Do you think that's
dramatically.
because of social media getting the word out about the quality of the cheerleaders?
I think watching it on TV, I think seeing it on Netflix, seeing it on television, of like, oh wow, these women are true performers, they're true athletes, and yeah, I'm not that skill level, so I'm not going to come out. Or, man, they're taking this seriously. Now I want to do it.
Just a few more questions down this rabbit hole. I'm sorry, just a lifelong fan here. So when the girls move here now, unlike where they probably were not moving here in 2006, 2007, as the shows become more popular, do you help the women get jobs? Because as it's noted throughout the seasons, that this is not their primary job.
Yeah.
They have other jobs,
Yeah.
and that this is a supplemental to their income.
Yes.
So when they move here, do you all help them with housing and careers and opening doors that is like a network?
So all of that. But I will say, actually, in the early days, too, they came here. We had cheerleaders from Japan. We have cheerleaders from Australia. And that was
I remember,
early on. So people have been coming from, across the country and around the world for a very long time. I think now in the effort to do that, but it's kind of been like that always, of, with this not being a full-time job, and I think this is important to know too, that people that came here, that they weren't just dancers, they were also they were pursuing a career in something. Either they were going into medical school, or they were wanting to be an attorney, or they were in school pursuing their education to go on to do something else. And we didn't want them to have to stop doing that. So we wanted to encourage that and then give them opportunities so that they could pursue that as a career once they put their boots up, and then they were able to continue in the direction that they set out to in the first place.
What's been the most controversial moment with the cheerleaders? Is that fraternization with athletes? Is that someone leaving the team for a different reason? I think the cheerleaders have a different set of, I would say, issues than, say, the team does.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's evolved over time. I think, early on, and I think every squad is different. Every group is different of what's the issue. I always say that we are a slice of society. So everything that happens in society is pretty much going to happen, on the team, in the locker room, in their locker room, in the players' locker room, that we're going to have something, surface. And I think, there's, as we all know, there are a lot of rules, involved in being a cheerleader, and we certainly like to keep the separation of church and state, from the team over here and the cheerleaders over here. It's just a better structure and it's a better environment. And I think, though, with the ladies in the locker room, every year there's a new challenge for them, and I wouldn't say any one issue is more significant than the other, because they all come around. It just depends on the year.
The Netflix show reinvigorated the conversation about cheerleader pay, and the Cowboys increased the pay for the cheerleaders by 400%. Do you think other teams should follow suit, and do you feel like that decision was long overdue, and do we credit the Netflix show for bringing that attention more forward?
I'm going to credit the women themselves, because what I think is what hadn't happened in the past is they brought it to the forefront, and they came in, they were very thoughtful about, this is what we're doing, can we do this, these are some suggestions. Every year we ask for suggestions on improvement of the program, and this is how they articulated it. They made changes in their scheduling, they made changes in all these things, but they know better. So, they showed up and they said, this is what we would like to see happen. And I think we were very responsive to that. And I think a lot of that, I truly feel like was the women who were speaking. And I don't know if it's ever a show or a moment or whatever. I think it's all timing, and it's what they're faced with. And I will say this, I will say that the show on Netflix has created a lot more interest and demand on the time of the women. I mean, there are more appearances, more, and all of that is great, but it's also, that's time. So if they're going to be able to do that, we need to adjust that so that they can. And I think we did that.
Did you guys do away with show group because there are more appearances now, and so more women are being called upon for an equal distribution of time?
So I love that you know that there was a show group. Look at you. Good. And for those who don't know, show group there was another audition process within the squad to select the most elite of the performers that would go travel and perform at different things around the world, literally. Now, you know what? They're all elite. So almost any one of them could be in that level of performance. And so that has given us a lot more opportunity to kind of divide and let everybody have those unique opportunities to have those other performances that are beyond the ones you see on Sunday. So I think a little bit of having more opportunity, but I just think the talent level has increased such.
So on every episode, we've played a game of Would You Rather. I'm going to start with an unscripted one here.
Okay.
Who would you rather have judge your DCC auditions, Kelly or Judy?
If I were auditioning myself?
100%.
Judy.
Why?
Just because I think, why do I think that? I don't know. I think Judy is more clinical in her evaluation in terms of I want a performer that does this. And I think I like knowing exactly what I need to do. Kelly, on the other hand, which I think is great because it kind of depends on where you sit, I would say you might want Kelly. Because Kelly is like, you know what, you might not have that quite yet, but I see that potential and you are very interesting to me because, I don't know, you fit something that has caught my eye that I think is interesting, so I want to see if you can do it.
Would you rather do the iconic Thunderstruck routine, jump splits and all, in front of 100,000 fans, or call a play on the sidelines during a live playoff game?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, given my age, if I did the jump splits, I would never come up. So, man, I'm going to call the play.
Would you rather clinch the NFC East every year or host the Super Bowl at AT&T Stadium every 5 years?
Oh, I want to win the Super Bowl. So I want to clinch and I want every opportunity to hoist another trophy.
Would you rather wear cowboy boots to a black tie event or 6-inch heels to a tailgate?
A cowboy boots to a black tie event.
Would you rather every ref's call go the Cowboys' way or every game go into overtime but end in a win?
Oh, I'll take the overtime and end in a win as long as I have some heart medicine.
If the Super Bowl ever came back to Dallas and you had total creative control, what would your dream halftime look like?
Oh, my goodness. My dream halftime. I would throw us back to the days that we pulled different genres together, all performing on the same stage. So I'm not sure exactly who I would pick in each one, but I like the blend of all of them because it's something that you never get to see. You can always go see somebody in concert, but you can't see them if they're all performing together.
What's life been like as a grandma?
Oh, it's been the greatest thing ever. It's been the greatest thing ever. I know everybody says it's the greatest stage of your life, but that's an underestimation.
What would your daughter-in-law say about you as a mother-in-law? I know there's always a controversy about the mother-in-law, especially as a first grandchild.
Yes, and I have been reminded by my sister-in-law, who is a new grandmother, and she's got lots of babies, but it's from her daughters. She's like, when you are the son's mother, you have to sit back and keep your mouth shut. So I've been trying my hardest to sit back and keep my mouth shut. I'm not really good at that. But I will say this. I have the greatest daughter-in-law. She is so wonderful. And she sent me a text yesterday. She said, I just wanted you to know I'm listening to a podcast about mothers and mothers that raise wonderful sons that become fathers. And I just wanted to tell you thank you. You've raised a wonderful father.
That's beautiful.
And she couldn't have sent me anything any better.
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
What's been your best moment of grandmahood thus far?
Oh my gosh. Well, they've trusted us enough to get to keep her overnight. So that big moment of like from bath time to putting them to sleep and then they wake up early in the morning. I love when they've been asleep for a long time and they're first waking up. Because little Parker, she's just full of smiles and giggles and sweetness, and then the whole hold you moment.
What's the most overrated toy or gadget you've purchased?
Overrated?
for the baby?
Maybe everything. It's like, I'm like, I think this paper box is better than the toy that I brought.
What's your game day ritual?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're super superstitious, and that usually results in like changing seats if we're not having a good day. So we changed a lot of seats last week, so that was not a good day. But I think from the wake up to getting ready, I think the energy around watching all the pregame shows, and I'm a channel surfer, so I try to hit every network, so I'm fully informed of what everyone's saying about us. That's always interesting, and what's happening in every other game. So that kind of gets you motivated and fired up. And then I arrive here at the stadium early, usually 3 hours before the game. The cheerleaders are warming up, and then we start the magic of the day. And those couple hours leading before the game are so exciting. They're so intense, and they're so full of like such hope that everybody there's just such an incredible energy, and everybody wants to be a part of success. So those are the greatest moments, I think.
Who's your favorite sports broadcaster?
Oh, I can't pick favorites. Oh my goodness. Well, I like them all. I was about to say one or two of them, but you know what? I can't do that because I truly think each network has done such an unbelievable job of finding the very best talent. As you know, that we have several former Dallas Cowboys that are in the main booth right now, in Tony Romo and Troy Aikman. So it's hard not to be a homie, but it is great to get to know these men and the women sideline reporters that are out there. They do such an amazing job, and they're like truly invested in our sport, and our game is in their hands. So they're the ones that entice the audiences. So, we owe a lot to them. They're our unsung heroes.
Dallas is known to be a city that does glam well and a lot. How often do you get your makeup done versus doing it yourself?
As often as I can. I will say this, I do my own makeup a lot. I'm just not good at it.
Who's your favorite makeup artist or studio in Dallas? For the girls watching out there.
Oh my gosh, well, I don't know. I've got a few of them. So between Matt, Lauren, and Tina, like that's my crew. They're all with different ones, and they are fabulous. But we have amazing friends at Charlotte Tilbury. And so my face is brought to you by, which I love. So I like get a pile of all this fun stuff. I don't know where it goes or how to use it. So I always need a guide. And but I love it. There's nothing more fun than makeup.
What's your skincare routine?
Okay, so I'm pretty diligent about this, and I'm a big believer in Dr. Obagi, so I kind of have all of that skincare.
So is my
line.
mom.
So is she really?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Like has done it since I remember.
So I don't know. It's like don't mess up a good thing.
Yeah, there's steps I've done.
There's some steps. So the steps are important, but I always have to wash my face. I would rather like have nothing on my face than something on my face.
Do you ever skip a skincare routine at night or no?
No. I don't. Keep it clean.
What's your go-to game day look?
You know, I will say I'm a big fan of leather. So, we love that. Shoes are super important. So, I don't do the 6-inch, spike tailgate heels, but I do a heel. But it also has to have like a bit of a base on it. It can't be spiky because you sink out there and you can't like walk around on your toes all day long. So, I think that's important. But I'm a big go-to in the leather family.
Who has the best barbecue in Texas?
Oh, man. That's hard. That's difficult because there are so many that say we are the absolute best. I love Pecan Lodge. I think they're amazing. We have a big barbecue contest out here every year. So that's always one where you can come kind of find out for yourself who does it best.
Would you say like you're more like Shiv Roy in Succession or Beth Dutton in Yellowstone?
This is a funny story. So in the land of Shiv Roy, we went to the Succession premiere, and I went up to her. I've never met her before, and I went up to her afterwards, and I said, I just had to come say hello. I'm a huge fan, love this show, but I play you in real life. and she just looked at me, and she's like, oh, Lord, I hope not. I'm so sorry. It's like a lot of, there's some things, there's some similarities, but I think that. But I'm also a big Yellowstone fan, but I think probably closer to Shiv.
So we always close out the pod with the final question of, if you could host a dinner party for 3 people, dead or alive, who's at your table and what are you eating?
Who is at my table and what am I eating? This sounds like a question that I would ask in an interview for our cheerleaders. You've seen some of those too. Well, I would say, who would be there? I would have Elvis Presley, definitely. Charlton Heston, because everybody needs a little Moses at their table. And then I'm going to put Taylor Swift in there. I think she's like stunning and amazing and powerful and a great representation of what young women's dreams can look like when they work hard.
What are you eating?
And I am going to eat. I'm going to have it catered because I'm a terrible cook. So, maybe a little like breaded veal, Milanese, that direction, and a really good pasta. I think I'm going to go that direction.
I was going to end on that, but now I need to know, what's the worst answer a cheerleader has ever given you in an interview?
Oh, I hate to say I have several, but I'll go with the easiest one is like, how long is a football field? And I think the answer was like 54 yards. So I'm like, okay, I know you're a dancer, but you do have to know we got to go 100 yards to get to the end zone.
Thank you so much for doing this.
So much fun, Katie. So nice to be with you. And I hope you enjoy being right here in Dallas and in the middle of all what's best of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of the Katie Miller Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. We're available Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern, everywhere you get your podcast. And we'll see you next week. Thanks again.